We'll come to order. Thank you all. Looks like we have a pretty good group of people. Remember, we set things up 15 minutes earlier today. We have the Department of Corrections committee members. I've talked to them. They're going to go through primarily core changes and some other things that they want to highlight. I have a few questions to ask, but we'll try to get through that and have your questions ready whenever that time comes, okay? Hello, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we discussed that. Chairman Sender, no longer any personal identifiable facts on a microphone. So, yeah. Please begin, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate it, or for the record, Trevor Foley, Director, Missouri Department of Corrections. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning and go through the budget request for the Department of Corrections. You will note that it's a relatively lean budget. It reflects our requirements, our mandatory items, our constitutional requirements. There are some reductions, but we believe we are left with the ability to manage and mitigate the impacts of those for short term and what we hope will not be long-term reductions for the budget. Also include some critical investments in our most critical need, which is our staffing. All of that will go into the book, so unless there's any questions, we'll go ahead and get started.
Susan Pulliam, Director of Budget and Finance for the Department of Corrections. We will start in Book 1, page 2. It's a new decision item for the CERT team stipend. The Corrections Emergency Response Team is a specially trained, readily available, deployable staff members whose primary mission is to address and successfully resolve developing and ongoing emergent situations that arise above the normal scope of activities. This stipend would be $100 per month, and they already have a $100 per month stipend, so this would bring it up to $200 a month, and this was recommended by the governor. Page 5, Office of Director. This is a core for the Office of Director staff. The Office of Director is made up of Office of Professional Standards, Office of General Counsel, Public Information, Constituent Services, Budget and Finance, Victim Services, Legislative Affairs, Research, Planning, and Process Improvement. The governor recommended a core cut of $214,070, broken down into $40,849 PS and 1 FTE, $23,221 E&E, and $150,000 for the Amachi program. Page 15, Office of Professional Standards, no changes. Page 24, Federal Fund, no changes. Page 34, Improving Community Treatment Success. This core, also known as ICTS, is a pay-for-success model of community treatment. This is collaborative between DOC and DMH working together, and the governor recommended a $3 million core reduction. Page 40, Population Growth Pool, no changes. Page 46, the core for restitution payments. RISMO 650.158 gives the Department of Corrections the authority to make restitution payments to individuals who were convicted of a felony in a Missouri court who were found actually found innocent later solely as a result of DNA. Payments are capped at $65,000, subject to appropriation. We currently have one person receiving restitution, and the governor recommended a core reduction of $14,600. Page 51. This is a core for the Human Services staff. This division is made up of Human Resources, Training Academy, Recruiting, General Services, Construction, and Energy Management, Employee Health, Wellness, Trauma, Technology, and Help Desk. The governor recommended core reductions totaling $84,798 PS, 2 FTE, and $55,099 E&E.
Senator Henderson.
Just real quick, it won't take but 1 second. Are you being able to recruit the people? Because I remember we've had some conversations personally back in COVID, and some, as you know, I've got 3 prisons in my district. So are you being able to recruit the people you need at this point?
We are recruiting a lot. We still have a lot of vacancies. Our turnover, 180-day turnover rate is around 50%. So, do you have anything to add to that?
Overall, we've made progress in our staffing, but it's been a slow progress. We have net gained 140 officer positions since we were here a year ago. We still have substantial vacancies.
The raises the last few years, and maybe you can help me with that, we gave, at least, I don't think they're outstanding, but at least we gave them something the last few years that helped. Did that help some?
It's helped some, absolutely. Pay is certainly a part of the recruiting and retention issue.
Then at Bonne Terre to Eastern Correctional, we're still down that one housing unit. We're not really filling it right now. Is that correct?
Correct. We have almost 1,200 beds across the system that are offline because of staffing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Senator Burke.
Would you, okay, so again, I think that's a really important number for us to understand. So 50% turnover within the first
180 days.
half a year. And you, when we had a conversation in my office, you were able to share a little bit about if you're able to keep them through that amount of time, that then your retention starts to really improve. So talk about some of those efforts that you're, some of your efforts to try to keep people at least through that 6 months and then to continue to mentor them to be ultimately successful and retain them as employees.
Sure. I mean, we understand that we're not going to strictly recruit our way out of a staffing problem. Retention has to be a big part of it. We do still recruit fairly effectively. It is the retaining. Our environments are very unique. They're not like typical work environments. So a lot of it starts from the initial hire and where we do basic training, the establishment of the Academy for Excellence in Corrections in Cameron, which was a closed facility that we converted to a training academy. We used to train people for custody positions in a classroom, and now we train them in a prison environment. It helps with that initial acclimation to the environment. They start to see the bigger process for how a prison functions, and it helps ease that transition as they go in. That 180 days rate is a very critical rate for us because typically we lose them quickly, or if we can keep them for a while, we will retain them for a while. The initial shock of going in and working in a facility is often kind of that critical point in the retention. We also have career coaches on site. We have a lot of dedicated mentor staff to try to help these sites. We've had policy changes like no mandatory overtime within the first 3 months after they complete basic, allow them to transition to the job. When they do their on-the-job training, after they complete the academy and come back to the institution, we try to have them do their OJT on the same shifts and locations within the facility, the same types of posts as they will initially go to. The shift differential that the General Assembly appropriated a few years ago, or the significant increase in the shift differential, has been very impactful. For the first time in anybody's memory, we had vacancies on day shift as our tenured staff were bidding into back shift, evening, and weekend posts for the additional money. And that has helped a lot because we're able to start new staff out on the day shift when there's more staff in the facilities. There's more of a normal operational rhythm to it. Generally, day shift is less impactful to most people's personal lives. Pay, compensation, as has been mentioned, I mean, we're working them all.
Yeah. Well, I certainly applaud those efforts. You seem like you're going in the right direction, and hopefully next time when we revisit this that you all are even making more strides. I don't know if there's any other state department where we see that level of turnover. I mean, that's just absolutely staggering.
I would, historically, DOC and DMH
Yep.
in the entry-level security aid positions, and for us, our custody positions are always leading the way in that
Okay.
unfortunate category.
Thank you, Director.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more thing? I apologize. One more thing.
Hold
We-
on just a minute, Senator Harrison.
Oh, sorry.
Harrison, go first, or you want to go first?
I just have a quick question for you. Good morning.
Morning.
Are you doing exit interviews?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're doing those exit interviews, what is the average thing that people are saying?
It's hard to say there's an average. It's a lot of reasons, and it depends a lot on where you are in the state. Some of our facilities are in very competitive labor markets, and they're leaving for better pay and opportunities somewhere else. Some of the feedback you get is it's the nature of the environment. it's often some of the little things that people don't realize about working in a prison, trying to recruit 18 to 30-year-olds in an environment where you're not allowed to have your phone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a huge culture shock for a lot of people is they're out of contact. Phones are contraband within a prison. Pay and benefits obviously comes up a lot. The nature of the environments comes up a lot. Really depends a lot on the facility they're at.
Okay.
Senator Henderson.
And that leads into the only thing I'm going to say real briefly. You and I have had a lot of conversations about one of your facilities, and a lot of times it doesn't have, if you can get the right leadership in there and the right leadership
Absolutely.
team, because I think you were having trouble in one of them. I was going to say some of that deals with just that environment they can create in there. You made a believer out of me as you tried to work through one situation that I think you're probably familiar with.
Yep. Yeah, site leadership, to your point, Senator, and to yours, plays a huge role. The expectations that we have for our site level leadership teams is they are out back. They are interacting with their staff. They're meeting with new hires the day that they're hired. Deputy Director Terry tells a story 15 years ago when he started with the department. It was months before he even knew the warden of his facility. That's not acceptable. Leadership has to engage with their teams. That is an expectation of their jobs, and that has a huge impact as well.
Any further questions? Please continue.
I believe that takes us to page 61, telecommunications, no changes. Page 69, general services, no changes. Page 77 is our fuel and utilities, and the associated NDI is on page 84. This NDI is for electrical rate increases, and this was recommended by the governor, $2,104,633. Takes us to page 87. This is the core for food services, and the associated NDI for this is on page 95.
Okay, on this section with the reduction that we have here of 17 FTE, can you explain how the department's going to be able to cover that?
So when we transitioned to our vendor who does our food services, as people attrited away from DOC employment to the vendor's employment, we gave up those positions. And so we had 17 to give up this year.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Page 99, staff training, no changes. Employee health and wellness, no changes. Overtime, no changes. Compensatory time, no changes. And that takes us to Book 2. Page 119. This is the core for the adult institution staff. The governor recommended a core reduction of $26,579 E&E. This section includes DAI Human Resources, Investigative Unit, Quality Control, Offender Grievance, and Central Transfer Authority. Takes us to page 127, which is a new decision item for the maximum medium stipends. This stipend is recommended by the governor to help with staffing in some of our most challenging locations. The maximum stipend that would be added would be 75 cents. It's also 75 cents for medium security institutions. The 75 cents for max would bring them up to $1.50 stipend because they got 75 cents last year. And this was recommended by the governor. Page 133. This is the core for institutional E&E.
Okay. 133, correct?
133.
And it's that reduction there.
Yes. There is a $2,006,477 core reduction. And if you break that down, it was $149,599 for vehicle replacement, $386,184 for inmate clothing. Maintenance and repair was $902,317, and institutional E&E pool 568,377.
Okay, thank you. Got to the answer quick. That's where those things were at, and at this point in time, you guys were part of, maybe not part of the decision maker, but you knew what was going on and felt like we'd survive that at this point.
Page 143, wage and discharge, no changes. And this starts the beginning of our institutions, all 19. There were no changes to any of them. Would you like me to review any of those?
Senators, anybody want to talk about any particular institution? No, they'll be fine.
All right, then we can move on to Book 3. On page 296 is the core for offender rehabilitative services. This division is utilized to provide direction, supervision, and assignment of all staff in the development of programs for offenders and the oversight of such services. This would include adult education, post-secondary academic and career education, technical education, assessment upon entry. The governor recommended a core reduction of 9,876. To page 304, which is our offender health care and the associated NDI on page 311. The NDI is in the amount of $19,767,366. Offender health care represents the core funding for constitutionally mandated healthcare services for incarcerated offenders in 19 correctional facilities and 2 transition centers.
Okay, I do want to take a little bit to discuss healthcare. Cost of service first year with the people holding the new contract. What was that? Go through what the expected increases were. I don't remember whether they were a set dollar amount or percentage or something like that. But can you tell all the committee what that contract looks like, and then when it starts rebid, et cetera?
So the current contract was $180,000.
Was what?
When the first contract started, it was $180 million. There have been percentage increases. That was stable for 4 years, and then the next 3 years had percent increases associated.
Associated with them, yes. Director, you want to?
Other way, it was flat for the first 3, and then it had 4 one-year extensions that were rolled into 1 4-year amendment.
Into 1 4 year. So how far are we out on this? How far are we into this contract? Remind me that. I remember the transition, but I don't remember how far
It
we're in.
expires June 30th of 2028.
2028, so we're, okay.
We'll start the RFP for the rebid this summer. It's about a 2-year RFP process.
Okay, okay. How many people are in that space doing that? Not a lot, I would imagine.
Generally speaking, there's about 4 providers nationally that are large enough to handle a comprehensive statewide contract. It's not a big space with a lot of providers in it.
Okay, all right. Yes, Senator.
I have a question here about healthcare as well, and we had some conversations about this, but talk to us a little bit about the penalties for the contractor if they don't meet certain stipulations of their contract, and how much, where are they in terms of fines or penalties, and just how that process works.
So the contract establishes what we call performance guarantees, which are essentially a financial penalty if they fail to meet a certain service threshold.
Okay.
And there's 14 of them right now. We had 5 in the initial contract when we did the amendment between the 3-year period going to the last 4. We added an additional 9. Over the life of the contract, there's been just over $3 million in total penalties charged to the vendor.
Okay, so $3 million in total penalties charged to the vendor for
Correct.
not meeting.
Some various provision of.
And what are those fines, like, in terms of what, how can I phrase this? Like, they're getting fined for what? For missing what, more than anything else? Just all over the board, not meeting?
Yeah, yes.
Not seeing patients in
I-
a certain timeline? I mean, I don't,
I would say initially when we went to it, it was fairly across the board, across the five metrics that we had. Part of the reason we added an additional 9. Initially, their performance was again pretty across the board and not meeting the metrics. Since then, there's really only one primary metric that they aren't meeting, and that's because it was a new service that rolled out.
okay, and what metric is that?
That's the compliance with provider follow-up on medication-assisted treatment referrals.
Okay,
So if you want to receive medication-assisted treatment, you visit with a qualified mental health professional, and then the terms of the contract require that you be seen by a provider, a doctor, to evaluate the medical side and the possibility of a prescription within 14 business days. And when they fail to meet that threshold of having that provider visit within the 14 days, it's counted as a deficiency. The deficiencies are added up, and if they don't meet the threshold, they get charged the financial penalty per deficiency.
okay. And as those penalties have, I don't know, are they increasing? Are they,
Oh,
is it helping
substantially
to?
decreasing.
They're
The addition of
decreasing.
the addition of the measures has had the desired effect.
Okay.
They are responding, and performance has substantially improved with the additional measures.
Okay, thank you.
Senator May.
Who is our current provider right now?
Centurion Healthcare.
Centurion, and we had, before that, it was,
For decades before that, it was Corizon.
yes, I remember. Thank God for the change.
Okay. Takes us to page 315. This is the Core for Substance Use Services and Recovery. This provides the substance use and recovery services for incarcerated offenders prior to their release from prison. The governor recommended a core reduction of $1,755,572, which goes with the next tab, which is an NDI for the fund swap, to use adult cannabis funds for that same amount. Page 326, toxicology, no changes. Page 332, academic education. This is a core item for academic and career and technical education. This core
Can I
provides.
get you to stop? I just noticed here while I'm doing something on my phone, I missed a question here, but beside me that I need to ask. Back on this new fund using cannabis. So here's the question. Is the Corrections Reinvestment Fund being administratively created? Is that what's
Yes.
happening? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. This core provides qualified educators to conduct assessments and academic vocational learning opportunities for offenders. The governor recommended a core reduction of $650,000, which is made up of $500,000 for coding skills and $150,000 for freedom on the inside. Takes us to page 339, reentry. Okay. Reentry services address the reduction of risk and recidivism by providing tools to offenders to help them succeed through resources, programs, partnerships designed to help improve lives for safer communities. This core reduction totaled $2,950,001, and the reduction involves 3 things. The original amounts for reentry grants was $1.8 million. There was $2.5 million in community-based programming Pay for Success. And then there was $750,000 for video job interviewing. Video job interviewing was core cut. $1.5 million of the $2.5 million was cut for community-based programming. And the $1 million remaining of the $2.5 million in community programming was moved to the reentry grants, leaving $2.1 million in reentry grants.
You don't have it. Senator Nuremberg.
Page 343 is the breakdown of the individual actions.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I want to ask this question here. We're seeing cuts across your budget for programs that reduce recidivism. So, I go back to, in the first book, we had cuts to the Improving Community Treatment Success Program. Department request $6 million, Governor rec was $3 million. Again, and your description is that these type of programs help reduce both types of prison emissions, and it's more cost effective. Here, when we talk about rehabilitative services, again, talking about reducing recidivism, programs that have proven effective time and time again. Share with the committee the cost to incarcerate, average cost to incarcerate an offender for a year.
Just over $39,000 a year.
$39,000 a year. And we had this conversation actually yesterday on the floor. The chair and I were talking about a bill and just looking at, okay, every time we look at a fiscal note with additional penalty provisions, obviously DOC is weighing in as to how much that would impact your department. Talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of trends in our incarcerated population and what you all are anticipating. And do you have that graph? You all shared it with me.
We can provide it. But-
Okay, yeah, can you just talk broadly about that?
Sure. So after the criminal, you mind a little bit of a history with it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. After the criminal code rewrite, which took effect in August of 2017, our population dropped substantially as the policy did what it was intended, and it pushed a lot of nonviolent and drug-related offenses to community supervision as opposed to prison. Then we entered the pandemic, and the population pretty much cratered substantially as court activity slowed down and law enforcement clearance rates slowed down. From that period, our low point in the recent decade's low point in the population was in February of 2021. From that point until February of 2025, we grew at a rate of about 0.87 offenders per day, so less than one offender per day. Since February of 2025 through the balance of the calendar year 2025, our growth rate was nearly 3 per day. So it more than tripled in the last 10 months of calendar year 25.
More than tripled, say that again, more than tripled in the last,
10 months
In the
of
last 10 months.
2025.
okay.
So population appears to be on the upswing, and it appears to be driven by one factor, which was predicted or projected. In the criminal code rewrite, when the fifth class of felony was created and additional nonviolent and drug offenders got community supervision, the flip side of that was violent and sex offenses got longer sentences. So now you're coming out 7.5 years from the effective date of that, and those longer sentences are kicking in, and you're seeing a decline in releases. So part of the increasing factor is a decline in releases. The other part that was not expected was we have seen an increase in new commitments from the community, from the courts.
Okay. Talk to us about do we have enough facilities to incarcerate all of these individuals if we continue on the same trend line?
It depends over what time period. In the short term,
Between facilities and staffing, because as you shared, right, you have 1,200 beds right now
offline because of
offline because
staffing.
you don't have staff. Okay.
Correct. So we have capacity right now for the short term. We are not oversaturated now. The governor's recommended pay plan for the stipends is to try to hit our facilities with the highest vacancy rates, really hopefully quickly allowing us to reopen our currently closed capacity. That would be the second phase while we get to the maximum of our physical capacity. And then we'll continue to watch the trends and make our plans for the eventuality that we need more physical capacity.
And how much does it cost to build a new institution?
An entire new facility, based on what the facility construction that it's been in other states, is in the ballpark of $900 million for a 1,500-bed facility.
Okay. So again, $39,000 a day, more or less, per inmate, or I'm sorry, a year, not a day.
Thank you.
Yes, a year annually. But just, quick comment on this. I've seen all these cuts and programs that are proven effective and cost effective. And in the judiciary, we saw cuts to treatment courts. We saw cuts to the pretrial service program that, again, has been proven to keep people out of prison. And I would love to be able to put money on these programs in the front end, so we're not spending $39,000 a year to keep people in prison in perpetuity. So that's my comment on that. Thank you.
Can I, is it okay if I say? One of the, we would agree. I think these cuts are impactful. We are hopeful that they are short-term. I do believe that part of the reason that these cuts were hit is because they don't impact the immediate security and operation of the department, so that helps. But there was also resources left behind so that we can still preserve and mitigate the impact of these cuts, hopefully in a short term. Keep the service delivery infrastructure in place so that we can quickly ramp the services back up when the financial situation allows.
Thank you. Continue.
The next item is the core for KC reentry program. That would have been an insert into your book. The Kansas City reentry program offers wraparound support to individuals in the Kansas City area, including employment services, job coaching, case management, and housing. The governor recommended to core cut this item, $178,000. Page 345, Missouri Vocational Enterprises, no changes. Page 354, this is the core for probation and parole staff. This funding provides personal services and operating expense and equipment for the Division of Probation and Parole. During fiscal year 25, the division's average daily population under supervision was approximately 53,000 offenders. The governor recommended a core cut of $217,690. Page 363, Transition Center of St. Louis, no changes. Page 370, Transition Center of Kansas City, no changes. Page 377, Command Center, no changes. Page 384, Residential Facilities, no changes. Page 390, Community Corrections, no changes. Page 396, Electronic Monitoring, no changes. Page 402, Community Supervision Centers. The Department of Corrections operates 6 community supervision centers, also called a CSC. The CSC provides community-based, short-term intervention to access, stabilize, and monitor offenders for risk revocation in areas in the state that contribute significant high numbers to annual prison admission and revocations. The governor recommended a core reduction of $27,865. This is followed by an NDI on page 410 for the CSC. This NDI is to correct a drafting error in the fiscal year 26 budget. The keying error resulted in a 10 FTE shortfall, and we're asking to get these restored, and this was recommended by the governor. Page 412, the NDI for the Southwest Region Supervision Center. This NDI is a request to reappropriate this $8 million to House Bill 17, which was recommended by the governor. Page 415 is the Parole Board. The Parole Board is responsible for determining whether a person confined in an adult institution shall receive parole and to set the conditions of supervisions for person released to parole or conditional release. The board consists of 7 members, which are appointed by the governor. The governor recommended a reduction of 1 FTE and $43,759 in PS.
Senator Number.
I think this is my last question. No promises. Can you talk to us a little bit about the current backlog then of clemency applications?
There's no backlog within the board that I'm aware of. I
Okay,
don't
pardon
believe there's-
requests?
I don't believe there's one in
So-
the governor's office right now.
Okay, so
But I'll be honest, I don't know that.
okay, I'd be curious to know. And and then we're going to see a reduction here of an FTE as well. So how many, I'm trying to read the numbers here real quickly, but we had poll board process, 902 clemency applications and expungements. Other, in terms of the, how is that going in terms of the expungements with the marijuana offenses?
As of right
Was there a
now,
backlog on those or not?
as of right now, we're basically
Caught up? Okay, okay.
We're always anticipating the hammer to drop from the courts, but we have gotten through any active incarceration, any active supervision, and they're working their way through inactive supervisions. But right now, I think we're pretty close to caught up with the requests we've gotten.
Okay, good, thank you.
Takes us to page 422, cost in criminal cases. This is made up of reimbursements to counties, certificates of delivery, transportation, and arrearages. The governor recommended a reallocation of the 1.750676 from arrearages to move into the reimbursement of counties, basically getting rid of that arrearage line, but the court did not change. Page 429, feminine hygiene, no changes. Page 434, pre- and post-conviction electronic monitoring. This electronic monitoring was for, mainly used in the jails. This was for pre- and post-conviction. They used a check-in system that the supervising agency or circuit court could access through a web-based platform. The governor recommended core cutting this item. Offender communication monitoring, no changes. Hootzel, no changes. Canteen, no changes. Legal expense fund, no changes. And that is the end of book 3.
Okay, one more question from Senator May, and if you've got 5 more questions, that's fine. But to anybody else that have any questions before we adjourn, get those prepared.
So the canteen. So what's the average cost of, when they have to purchase, because they have to purchase all of these items from the canteen? Who is the vendor on that? Supplying the items to the canteen?
There are various vendors that are contracted that provide different products.
Okay. And so the inmates have to purchase these products from from the vendor?
Basic hygiene items are provided, but if they want something else, different food, snacks, sodas, then they would purchase that through the canteen.
Okay, very good. Do we get like a breakdown, or is there any way to see, what's the cost of those various items?
Like a price list?
Yes.
Yes. We could
Okay.
get that for you.
Thank you.
Senator,
That's why I didn't promise anything. Okay, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat, Director. Just big picture, if there's one thing that you could have restored in the budget through the governor's, if one asked the governor to recommend, what would it be and why? What would you like to see restored in your budget?
Respectfully, Senator, I support the governor's recommendations.
As any director that gets, anyway, I'm gonna be nice, who works for the governor, obviously. You support the governor's recommendations, however, what do you think would help long-term, even with your fiscal conservative hat on, what helps long-term in terms of cost savings to your department?
Probably the most impactful investment that I believe could be made is in our workforce pay.
Workforce pay.
Yep.
Okay,
Virtually every operational problem we have at one point stems back to the workforce. So, and I think that is where you see the primary new investment in this budget, in us, is in our workforce.
so the stipends are
Mhm.
helping.
Yes. And we see increased requests for more of those. So
Okay.
investments in my workforce is probably the most impactful thing we can do right now.
Good to know, thank you.
any further questions? Yes. Senator Hudson.
Thank you very much. Can we talk about the electronic monitoring thing? The $4 million core cut on page 430 34. So we're cutting this off, right? We're not going to be monitoring these folks,
Correct. Well, not state-funded monitoring.
not state-funded monitoring. So in order for these individuals to continue to be monitored, who is this going to be putting like a burden on local law enforcement?
I mean, how they would manage this would ultimately be a decision by the judges, by the circuits. But it really depends on the judge's decisions. Do they issue more bond? Do they issue less bond? Do they seek electronic monitoring from another means, either paid for locally? It'll really depend on how the individual judges and circuits choose to manage the
Okay,
impact.
all right. Very, very important situation here because we got folks that are being monitored. We got, I think this also has to do with victims being notified when an individual's in a certain area there. Okay,
That is a component of the monitoring service. I did send a letter this week to all the circuits, basically all the presiding judges in the state, notifying them that this funding has been identified for reduction. Now, I indicated there's a long appropriations process to go through, and nothing is final, but they should prepare for the possibility that that those services won't be their state provided beginning July 1st.
Are you getting, as a result of that, are you getting much feedback on what folks are looking about doing at the local level?
I haven't yet. I
Okay.
just sent
Just
that
sent-
notice
okay.
out this week, just mainly to put it on their radar if they needed to adjust
Okay.
bond orders, if you wanted to try to procure services another way. I was just trying to give them as much heads up as we could. There's also, this has been really, it hasn't been consistently utilized by all the circuits. Some circuits have used it pretty substantially. Many circuits have not used it at all. So it won't impact everybody the same way.
Okay. I would be interested how those conversations go going forward, how this
Sure.
is going to be handled. So,
I am I'm presenting to all the presiding judges at their annual conference next week or the week, I'm sorry, I can't remember, soon.
Okay.
And I am going to be discussing this issue with them, so I will likely get some direct feedback in
I
a
would-
moment, and I'll gladly follow
I
up.
would love to hear
I
about
will
that.
certainly follow up with you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Senator,
Yeah. So, I remember when we did the monitoring service, we had counties around the state that were billing us for holding prisoners. Have we absolved those balances? I remember one time it was like $19 million, $20 million because they were holding prisoners and billing the state. And so I know we went to that electronic monitoring as a way to cut that cost, and, they holding just to get money into their local coffers or whatever. So,
Jail reimbursement is still a thing. That was the cost in criminal cases section. The arrears was caught up. It hit a high point of north of 30 million. But the arrearage has been fully paid for 3 years now, and we're staying current. The volume of requests for jail reimbursement has dropped over the last 2 years, but is substantially increased this year. It's a very volatile and very hard, I would say impossible to predict flow of requests. I mean, it just depends on what's happening at the local level in the jails and judicial decisions about bond and things like that. And then just what cases happen to be pending.
so how did the monitoring system impact that?
It's hard to definitively say that it did.
Okay.
I think that was one of the original intentions when that appropriation was made by the General Assembly, as they thought that it
Yes.
would increase the number of bonds awarded, more people out of jail, less jail reimbursement. It's very difficult to come up with the data to back that up either way.
Okay, very good.
Senator Sirpoli.
Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, what does it cost today for a prisoner for this electronic monitoring?
The contract that's in effect now has two vendors, and one of them, I believe, was $325 per
Okay.
offender per day, and the other one was a flat rate where they would monitor any number. So whether it's one or whether it's 1,000, it was one.
And this was with the phone, they do the photograph thing? And
Yeah, it's a smartphone-based app.
Right, okay. And is it for pretrial as well as post-conviction?
This right now is only rolled out to pretrial.
Okay, so parolees aren't using this system?
Correct. The Department of Corrections contracts for electronic monitoring and the traditional ankle bracelets. That's what we utilize.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director, any closing comments?
No, sir. Thank you.
With that, the committee is adjourned. Everybody continue to have a great Thursday.